So today we're going to take a look at the Artificer 2024 rules that they came out with. There was a video that Wizards of the Coast put out, and I'll put a link in the description, just talking about it and all the changes they're kind of making. And I've seen some people say how horrible it is, how it wasn't a big enough change, and a lot of negative things about it. And at first, I felt the same way. I didn't think it was that good. I didn't think it was a big enough change, and I was kind of disappointed in it. But then I actually took a look at it, saw what was going on, and I kind of came to change my mind. I think it's a pretty decent class. I do have some gripes about it, but this isn't the final product. Things are going to change. So we'll take a look together, and I'll tell you what I really like about it and what I don't, and kind of where we expect it to go. So the first thing I do want to talk about is it doesn't come with the core book. So the player's guide does not have this class, which I think is kind of a disappointment. Now, the last time it came out, it was in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which was a crucial supplement book. All my new players, and I mean brand new players, all took subclasses out of that supplement book itself. It's very popular, and that says a lot about it. Now, I don't know if it's going to be as needed as Tasha's was, but anytime you have a core class coming out, you kind of have to pay attention to whatever book it's in, because there's also going to be subclasses, powerful items, and spells. It's going to be almost necessary. And some people might cringe at having to buy another $50, $60 book. That is kind of in their business, so it is what it is. So let's take a look at the class and see if it's going to be worth it, and if you're ever going to play it. So one thing they really did is they really invested in the crafting aspect of it, which is a nice change. So if you look in the new 2024 books, they do come up with rules for crafting magical items now. There is a time and a gold expenditure required. Also, the garrisons themselves can craft magical items for you, which I think is great as well. So, looking at the Artificer traits, nothing out of the ordinary. Skills, hit points, skill proficiencies, primary ability, all that stuff is there. But let's move on to the actual class itself. So, at level 1, you're gaining the ability to just make a couple of mundane items, which I think is cool. It's flavorful, it's thematic, and it might get you out of a tight pinch. If you're trapped in a situation where all your stuff was taken, the Artificer has a couple of items he can pull out of his bag. Now, these are nothing you're not going to find in every Adventurer's and Explorer's pack, but it's something that if you are in a situation which you are alone or you are without all your items, it's going to be there for you. But moving on, we get the spell casting, which I'm not going to go into too much. You need it just like everybody else. You need your focus, you have your cantrips, spell slots, so on and so forth, okay? We take a look at the overall class. No martial skills, so the new weapon abilities aren't going to be taking effect, and none of the classes give it to you either. So, nothing like that. You get your plans known, which we'll talk about in a minute. Magical items that you can be attuned to, which we go over as well. And then your cantrips, prepared spells, and then spell slots. And you get up to 5th level spells. And there's a whole list, and it's pretty decent. Proficiency is normal, you get the gist. So the first thing that really kicks in is replicate magical item. So you get a couple of plans known from a small table. So bag of holding, alchemy jug, goggles of night, shield +1, weapon +1. You get it. You can make some of those every day. It's pretty nifty. But as you move on, you get to increase those plans known, okay? So at level 6, you get armor, cloak of elvenkind, gloves of thievery, pipes of haunting, some other uncommon armor, wander weapon you get to choose. So it varies. Level 10, uncommon rings or wondrous items. And then level 14, rare armor, wands, weapons, or wondrous items. So stuff you can pick. And then every level you get to change out your plans a little bit. So as you move up, you only get so many known, 8. So you're going to want to be cycling around and maybe moving up, so you do have some options at the higher levels. So as you go on, you get your subclass, which we'll talk about those underneath. There's like 4 of them. They're pretty decent. You get your right tool for the job. So the list of items you can create with magical tinkering now includes artisan tools, which is great. You make a bunch of different artisan tools. You can sell them or just for yourself, depending on what you're crafting. Ability score improvement. And then you get magic item tinkerer. So the first thing you get to do is drain magic items. So if you've created a bunch of magical items and during a fight or during a situation you need a spell, you can dust one of those magical items to recover a spell slot. So spell slot is level 1 if it's a common item, level 2 uncommon or rare. So that's pretty good. I would like to see them get up to level 3 for rare and keep level 2 for uncommon, but we'll see where they go with the testing. And then expanded replication. When you learn a plan from your replicate magic item, you can now also choose from the magic items. So that's what we talked about before. You get better items, level 6. Flash of Genius is a really good skill that I like. And at first when I heard it, I was like, I was on the fence. But as you level up, it's going to get better. We'll explain that in a second. So you or any creature within 30 feet of you fail an ability saving check or saving throw. You can take your reaction to add a bonus equal to your intelligence modifier to that roll. And that's after you know it fails, which I think is very crucial. So it's good. You can do it a number of days equal to your intelligence modifier. So level 7, you're probably sitting around 4, maybe 5 if you're lucky. And you can use it a number of times. So you can add +5 to 5 rolls. And I think that's really good, especially in a nice group of well-rounded people. And it's going to get better a little bit later on. So then you get Magic Item Adept, which yet again expands the item list. And this is where the additional attunement starts to kick in. 4 magical items at level 10. And that's going to come in really handy later on. Level 11 spell storing items. Now, whenever you finish a long rest, you can touch one simple or martial weapon, or one item that you use as focus, and you can spell a store in it. You can store a spell in it. Choosing 1, 2, or 3 Artificer spells that has a casting time of an action. Now, I think that's really strong. The Artificer has some really good spells, and at level 3 some really good spells, that you can put into your allies' magical items. Because when they cast it with the Artificer's proficiency, not proficiency, but an intelligence modifier, and it stores for a number of uses equal to twice the modifier. So level 11, I'm going to say 5. So you can store 10 uses of a level 3 spell in a magical item. And I think that's really powerful. And you can do it every time you finish a long rest. So you can start buffing your party's magical items to have contingencies if you're not around. Things like Water Breather, Fly, Heroism, Healing Word. Those are great to have in a pinch. Haste. So then as we go, the magical item Savant. So you're going to tune up to 5 magical items now, and you get access to your Artificer level 14 plus table. Then you get Magic Item Master, which is 6 magical items that you can be attuned to, which I think is fantastic. And then you get your Epic Boon, and then you get your level 20 Capstone. Now, Soul of Artifice, yet again, when I first heard it, was not a big fan of it, but it has grown on me. So the first thing, Cheat Death. If you're reduced to 0 hit points, but not killed outright, you can disintegrate 1 uncommon or rare magical item created by your ability, and you go to 20 hit points instead. So you can make a bunch of items. You can have them on hand. This doesn't even need to be attuned to you. But you can dust it, and you're at 20 hit points, so you're not dead. But the magical guidance is where I think it really shines. So while you have attunement to at least 1 magical item, and remember, as you go, you might break some, and so on and so forth if it's a really hectic day. But as long as you have 1, and you should always have 1. You should have 1 item that you'll never break. You can add 1d6 to any ability check you make. You can decide to add the die after rolling the d20, and you can use the benefit only once per turn. But here's the thing. You can use that in conjunction with your Flash of Genius. So you can be adding 1d6 plus 5 or more, you're at level 20. Sure, you can get higher. To your failed rolls. Or just your intelligence modifier to somebody else's failed rolls. But for you, that's really good. So you don't have to be a master of one thing. You're kind of like a semi-master of many. And that way you don't have to worry about your ability points, your ability skills too much. It's not going to hamper you as much as it would some other classes. Because you have these bonuses to kind of push you over the edge. Now, they're not traditional, and you do have to manage them, but they are there. So we can look at the list. I'll leave it up for a second. You guys can take a look and see what gets available. It's really third level spells that I think are great. Haste, fly, protection from energy, water breathing, water walking, and so on and so forth. Items that you can put into, spells that you can put into items. Which I think is very strong. Now we'll move on to the subclasses, and I'll leave a link for this file, guys, by the way, so you can take a look and see it for yourself. Now, I think my favorite subclass is going to be the Alchemist. I've kind of read through this a few times, and it's really grown on me. So the Alchemist really functions well with the class itself. You have an Artificer who creates magical items, and then he also creates potions and elixirs. You get a tool proficiency, which all classes do, so you can look for them yourself, and you get extra spells, which I think are really good. So for Alchemist, you get Healing Word and Ray of Sickness. So remember what we're talking about in spell storing. Healing Word is a great one. That's great to have in the need of emergency. 10 uses of it before it goes away, and then you can wake up and do it again. It's that strong. So you get to make some elixirs. Now they're experimental, and every morning you get to wake up and you get to make 2. So there's the list. A D6 you roll and you get them. And I'm assuming that it's going to follow the regular rules for potions, where you get to take a little sip, and it kind of tells you what it is. That is in the rule book. Go look it up if you don't believe me. Water. Now, as you go on, you get to add bonuses to those elixirs. First off, you get to add a Fortify bonus. So you gain temporary hit points equal to the intelligence modifier of the Artificer, or Lesser Restoration. And I think that's very strong as well. Oftentimes you want Lesser Restoration and you don't have it, but there it is, level 9. It's in a drink, maybe with Resilience or Swiftness or Healing. You have access to it. Now I did skip over Alchemical Savant. So whenever you cast a spell using your Alchemist supplies as a focus, you get a bonus to 1 roll of the spell. That roll must restore hit points or be a damage roll that deals acid, fire, necrotic, and equals your intelligence modifier. So if you're healing, you're giving a bonus. If you're dealing damage, you're giving a bonus as well, which is very nice. It's very nice to add to the spells, and that increases as we go. There's other little bumps. So the last one, Chemical Mastery. When you cast an Artificer spell that deals acid, fire, necrotic, or poison damage, you can also deal 2d8 force damage to that target, and you can use the benefit only once each turn. So that is in conjunction with your Alchemical Savant. So if you cast Acid Splash, you're dealing +5 damage or whatever your bonus is, plus an extra 2d8 force damage. So a small 0-level spell can be quite detrimental and great to use in a pinch if you don't want something too forceful, or if you have a bigger spell and you just want to add more to it, you have that option. You gain resistance to acid and damage, which is nothing to scoff at. And then, of course, you can cast Tasha's Bubbling Cauldron without expending a spell slot or preparing a spell, and without material components. And you just pop it out right there. So that's great. So a lot of theme, a lot of thematic moments to roll in with the Artificer. I really like it. I think it's good. Now, moving on to the other subclasses, we have the Armorer. Now, I'm not going to go step by step for the Armorer, because I don't think it's needed. Really what I want to tell you is, you create an armor, and it just is really good. Think Iron Man in Hulkbuster armor, or in stealth armor, or in whatever type of armor you really need. So there's 3 different types. There is a defense, an offense, and a utility, I would say. Now, the Dreadnought seems to be your offensive aggressive. The Guardian seems to be your defensive and kind of crowd control, so to speak. And then you have your Infiltrator, which is kind of your ranged standoffish one. And they all kind of give you bonuses that expand on those. So your Dreadnought can get really big, has a lot of reach, has a flail that flies around. Your Guardian, you get Lightning Fists that move people around and deal damage. And then your Infiltrator gets a range Gem Knight node that appears on the gauntlets or the armor of your chest, so it really is like Iron Man. And it does our lightning range attack, which is cool. And then you also can get advantage on stealth checks. So, and those can switch. See, that's the great thing about this kind of like subclass. You're not stuck in any one. You could wake up and be like, okay, today I need to do some work and become an Infiltrator, and then you go and do that. You do get extra attack. You get the armor replication, preferred armor, perfected armor, I apologize. That all increase your armor and what it can do. But the best thing about it is you're not fixed into one armor. So if you change your mind, you can switch up your armor. Be like, you know what, I'm tired of doing Guardian. I'm going to go Dreadnought. Just big, beefy guy. You know, oh, we need to be stealthy tomorrow. We're sneaking into somewhere. Okay, Infiltrator. I'll go completely silent. What I would like to see them do is a couple changes to the weapons. I think a lot of people get attached to what kind of weapon they want to use and kind of like they look like and their style. And I feel like a flail on the Dreadnought is a missed opportunity to just a huge Pacific Rim Gypsy Danger sword coming out of your arm, or just an axe hand style. And then same with the Guardian, maybe like a shield build where you just bash people with a shield that just has electricity, Captain America style. And then for the Infiltrator, maybe Assassin's Creed style daggers in the wrist. I don't hate the lightning, but I want some options for weapons. Now moving on, we have the Artillerist. So this is the guy who's standing off to the side. He drops an Eldritch Cannon and he's just blasting from afar. You're just staying in the back, shooting your stuff, doing what you do. And I think it's fine. I personally don't really see it working with the rest of the class as well. I think the Artificer is more hands-on, but it's your preferred build. So I'm not going to go into it too much. It's the same thing as the other one, where you're kind of focusing on your cannon and all the things it can do, using bonus actions to enable it, while you yourself are doing stuff. So you can be blasting, throwing spells, range weapons, what have you. Maybe being a battlefield medic. As long as you're within 60 feet of your Eldritch Cannon, it's going to fire for you as you command it. And then if people get close to it, you can blow it up. It's not bad. There's expansions on that. And then finally, we have the Battlesmith. So this is similar to the one from Tasha's. You get to construct a Guardian. So if you really like the idea of having like a steel dog or a bear or a cat with you and you're fighting in battle with your robot companion, so to speak, it's great. You're going to get an extra attack. You're going to add your intelligence modifier to your attack and damage rolls. Your defender's going to get buffed. You're going to have a bunch of magical items and a bunch of buff skills on you. I think it's a really cool build. I think you can have a lot of fun with it. You get to make your own steel defender, and it has a whole personality, which I'm sure people are really going to love. And you kind of get to play like two semi-characters a little bit. And I think that's really interesting. And then it gets stronger. And I think also if you work with your DM, you're probably going to be able to do some magical item stuff with your steel defender on some improvements, what have you. And it kind of goes from there. So the one spell they did include was the Homunculus Servant, which creates like the little flying gizmos, contraptions, little critters or whatever you want, which I think is really cool and adds a lot of like thematic role to your character, and just the idea that you're walking around with some things, you know, just whizzing by you, or like sitting on your shoulder, crawling on the back of your neck or what have you. Or maybe you have it hiding out and then it comes out to help you if you get captured, stuff like that. I think it can be really cool. And then they go into magical items, which I'm not going to tap on here, but I will leave the link like I said. You guys can check it out. So overall, I think the class is really cool. I think whoever chooses it is really going to have a lot of fun with it. You're going to have a lot of options, a lot of access to a lot of different skills and abilities you wouldn't normally have, which I think is really beneficial to any group. And I think if you're in a group of 4 or 5 people, you're really going to be felt. I think you're going to be a strong addition. I think you're always going to have something to do. You can do damage and do healing. You don't have to specialize in one. You can have a jack of all trades, but you are a master. You're a master of crafting, and you can just do a lot with it. So take a look at it. Don't discredit it. I know people aren't too fond of it right now, but I think it's going to get stronger. This isn't even the final form. It's going to be changed and manipulated. You guys can play it and give some feedback. They're open to testing, which is great. And then we'll see it come in later the next year, obviously. And we'll see what they do with it. That's my 2 cents. That's how I feel about it. I did start out being pretty negative about it and hating it when I was watching the video. But after reading through it, it's really grown on me. I think it'll grow on all of you. Check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Expect more D&D content, more gaming content. I want to expand on all of it, get some live sessions out there, and maybe do some stuff on Roll20. So let me know what you think about it, and maybe I'll do a one-shot, have somebody come in and play one, and we'll see how it goes, and you guys can all take a look at it. Till then, you have a good evening. I'm out.